Welcome, good folks of Earth, to Thrones of Britannia. In this here video, we're going to go through a battle of me playing as East Angle, a great Viking faction, against Mercia, a dirty English faction. Ugh. And I'll also be telling you what the hell I think about this game in general, and how much coverage of it you'll see on this channel. For the battle, I'm moving up in formation. My army is a fairly balanced one. At least I think it is. I'm still learning the units, of course. But I'll try to talk you through it a bit and make it as relatable to Warhammer for those who don't play historical titles. So my front line is Sword Herdmen, who are basically a good little holding unit. They're quite cheap though. This is a low tier one, so they're not going to be fantastic necessarily. Depends who they fight. They're kind of like Empire Swordsmen maybe, just not that Empire Swordsmen are good at holding, but they're kind of in that similar vein. On the left, I've got some crappy Spearmen. These are just cheap Spearmen that I bought just to try and clog up the flank more than anything. That's why I've got 2 units over there. And then my cavalry is not fantastic either. I've cheaped out on the cavalry and the spearmen in this one. So my spearmen are kind of like Bretonian men-at-arms, just not great. I do have some javelin men as well. They can be pretty powerful in the historical games. Javelin's very strong. And then another unit of that crappy cavalry. Cavalry probably like Dark Riders or something. Very fast, but quite weak overall. Then I've got 2 units of armoured archers. Similar to High Elf armoured archers, perhaps, maybe. And then the place where the majority of my funds went. Basically, like Chosen with great weapons or Chaos Warriors with great weapons, I've got Berserkers, just 1 unit as they are quite expensive, but I do love any kind of Berserker in games. Charge them in, they just go mental. I love it. And then to the left, I've got Royal Huskars. These boys mean business. They will chop through most enemy units very, very quickly. Look at how terrifying this man is. Look into his eyes. Terrifying. Look how big his pupils are. He's definitely stoned. I definitely didn't sanction this kind of behavior in my Royal Huskars, but whatever. I've got another unit on the other side as well, so we've got 2 units of those, and the 1 unit of Berserkers in the middle. Close up of these boys. One nice thing I have noticed about this is that the men are actually different sizes, so obviously they have different looks, for the most part, different beards, different hair colours, etc. But some of them are actually different heights, so you can get like a 6'5" guy stood next to a 5'8" guy, and it just adds that little bit of diversity to the look of the unit. Now, Zerk wouldn't be Zerk unless he came with a sneaky plan, so in the trees I've got 3 units of Anglian Raiders, who in theory are quite quick and should be good little flanking ambushers, but I'm not sure. There's no speed stat in this game. The first thing you'll notice maybe is on the unit card you'll see there's not a great deal of stats compared to previous Total War historical games and of course Warhammer, which to me is a pretty terrible decision. If I'm honest, one of the best things about Warhammer is the complexity of the battles and stats and how they interact with each other. So melee attack and melee defense are now just combined into melee skill, which gives you a combined number of their melee attack and melee defense, or something along that lines, but there's no way to find out the individual stats. So I can't tell if a unit has high melee defense and if they're a good unit for holding the line, or if they have high melee attack and they're a good damage dealer unit. There's no speed stat even, so I don't know how fast all the units are. You literally have to look at a unit and see if it's got much armor on. Chances are if it's got heavy armor on, it's going to be quite slow. If it's got no armor on, they're going to be very light and they're going to move quickly, and that seems very silly to not include that stat. When you've got all that space at the bottom of the unit card, it's just a bit of a questionable decision in my eyes. Why you'd simplify the stats, I don't know. Maybe they're trying to make the game more accessible for new players. That's of course a danger of any franchise. Look what happened to Elder Scrolls. It got simpler and simpler, and it didn't ruin the game necessarily, but it certainly made it less enjoyable than when things were more complex. So yeah, not really sure what the idea is with that, and that's a big issue for me, because honestly, I'm a Total War player that mostly plays for the battles. I'm not a huge lover of campaign. I play for about 75% for the battles, 25% to play campaigns. Like, I don't enjoy management so much. I'm not a manager. I enjoy smashing people in the face with an axe, right? I like commanding a force. I like using tactics. I'm not a diplomat. I'm a tactician. I'm a strategist, goddammit. I don't want to spend my time thinking of, who's done this? Who's been burning houses? Which one of you wankers? No, this isn't on. You can't just be burning people's houses, lads. We're Vikings, not barbarians. Jesus. Or Odin. Anyway, what was I on about? Campaigns. Yeah, so the campaign side of things has never been the mass appeal of Total War games to me. I do enjoy it to some extent. It's not like I hate it. I enjoy watching an empire grow and trying to progress to take over more land and things like that. But there's aspects of campaigns that can get very tedious, for me at least. And one of the things that came with Warhammer, one of the things I actually just moaned about, games getting simplified. Warhammer was simplified from previous historical titles, right? There was less to worry about in campaign, and for me that was great because it made me actually enjoy the campaign a bit more. So coming back to a historical campaign where you have to worry about your food and your family tree and your estates and all this other stuff, it's kind of like, oh, I'm back to this again. Even though I think Warhammer spoiled me. I think that's what it is. The Warhammer campaigns are nice and simple for the most part, and they've spoiled me. And I'm still going to play historical Total Wars. I still play Rome 2 and Attila from time to time since Warhammer's been out. And I'm still massively excited for Three Kingdoms. And that brings me to 2 points. The reason I'm telling you all that is to bring you to 2 points. Number one, if you do enjoy the campaign side of Total War, the management, the diplomacy, the economy, the growth, all that stuff, then my opinion probably isn't a great one for you, because I'm coming from a different perspective than you. But if you enjoy mostly the battles like me, then you may find similar things to me. And the second point that I was going to make is that I basically feel like I'm playing Attila. It's made on the Attila engine, that's no secret, but I feel like I could be playing an Attila DLC. It's really not far dissimilar, and if anything, I honestly think I probably prefer Attila. The other big downside to this, I think, this game is that, and again, it's coming down to Warhammer spoiling me, I think, but the faction diversity just isn't there for me. And I worry for the game's sake that that's something a lot of people are going to find. Coming from Warhammer, where there's so much diversity in the factions, every faction is completely different, they play differently, they've got different units, they're capable of different things. When you make a Total War game that is just in one kind of section of the world, it's difficult to add the diversity, and I appreciate that. I'm not expecting them to add trolls and dwarfs and wizards into this game. That would obviously be ridiculous. So I appreciate there's only so much diversity they can put into the historical title, and it's not their fault by any means, it's just history, right? There was only axes and swords, there were no wizards, unfortunately. Although I hate wizards, why did I say that? But you get the idea, right? I'm finding it difficult to come back to this more simpler way of combat. And the other downside to combat being simplified I've found is that the difference between armor piercing and non-armor piercing units, it's literally just sword units are not armor piercing for the most part, and axe units are armor piercing. That's it. There's no symbol to show you whether a unit is armor piercing or not. It's just that simple. Axes are armor piercing, swords are not for the most part. So that's just taking a ton of kind of tactical elements away to me. There's supposed to be loads of stuff with the shield now. It's supposed to be all about the shield warfare, and you've got a shield stat which is higher and lower, and you can go into shield formations and all this. But it's not selling me. It's not selling me to it, to be honest. So yeah, I wanted to love this. I wanted to love this game. I was very excited. You probably heard me in previous videos saying, oh, I can't wait for Thrones of Britannia. I love the time period. I'm a huge fan of Vikings and that whole history. But I think it just feels too much like Attila for me. It's like Attila with simplified battles, but the campaign is probably just as complex as Attila, and the campaign is kind of narrative driven in its own way, but that kind of is limiting and kind of takes away the freedom of being able to do crazy stuff. That's why I make my campaigns that I do for the channel. I try to add a narrative and a story to some extent to jazz it up from just, oh, let's grow the economy and let's make money. And I can't really do anything crazy. I can't go and sail off and try to take some other part of the world because the campaign just doesn't allow it. So yeah, if you enjoy the campaigns of Total War, like I say, you may well love this game. If you really loved Attila, there's a good chance you'll thoroughly enjoy this. But for me, the battles aren't quite what I want, and the campaign side of thing, like I say, I probably prefer Attila. I'd rather go and play Attila. So yeah, a lack of faction, like I can't make army guys on these factions because they're all very similar. It's just, you know, one of them will have loads more and better axemen than the other one. One will have better cavalry, one will have better swordsmen. And it's really that simple. So it's not like I can make like faction guides for this game because I feel like it's all very similar. It's all too similar. And back to what I said about Warhammer being really diverse. Well, Rome 2 actually was really diverse in terms of the factions. You had all kinds of different factions. You have steppe factions. You have like Sparta, who only had spearmen. You had Rome, who are good at everything. You got Suebi, who have less armor and stuff, but they're a lot quicker, more aggressive. Plenty of faction diversity. So I think overall, that's what it's coming down to for me. The battles aren't exciting enough for me, and the campaigns are too exciting for me. There's too much going on. So yeah, you won't see too much Thrones of Britannia content on this channel, is where I'm basically going with this. I'm still, like I say, I'm still very much looking forward to Three Kingdoms. Again, that's going to be a game because it's in one kind of area, one place. I'm not expecting there to be a ton of faction diversity, but I'm hoping that the battles won't be simplified like they are in this. I want to see melee attack, I want to see melee defense, I want to see speed, I want to see everything. I want to know how I can best use that unit so I can make up crazy concoctions and army builds like you can do in the previous Total Wars. Maybe it's just a lack of progression that's throwing me off. I feel like games that are in a sequential line, like your new game should improve on your old game. But this feels like it's just doing Attila again. Same engine, same animations, same lackluster charges, same dodgy AI. So that's the majority of my opinions on the game. I haven't played it a great deal, so don't hold my opinion in a high esteem, I'd say. There's definitely people who have put more time into the game and who have a more well-rounded opinion. I haven't talked about this battle at all, I've just realised. I meant to, but I've pretty much just gone off on one talking about the game. For the most part though, you won't see too much Thrones of Britannia on this channel. And it's not that it's a bad game by any means. I've said a lot of negatives and I'm making it sound bad, but it's not bad. It is just very similar to Attila, so if you loved Attila, you're probably going to love this. And I will probably play through a campaign myself in the game and give it a proper try, because I've only put like 15 hours or so into it. So like I say, my opinion is not the most reliable on this subject, but these have been my findings so far. And I hope I'll shake some of these things. Like I say, I want to love this game, and once I've played it a bit more, maybe I'll come around to it, but I think the lack of stats and the lack of ability to plan crazy tactics and stuff in battle is really going to make me lose it. And honestly, as much as I wish it well, I wish Creative Assembly all their endeavours very well, I don't think this is going to do great. I think in 2 or 3 weeks, more people will be playing Rome 2 than will be playing this, because it just feels like Attila DLC. But we'll see. We'll see how it goes. I definitely, like I said, excited for Three Kingdoms. I plan to put a lot of stuff for that on the channel. I do want to get into historical titles on this channel, because I only have a few videos from Attila and Rome 2. But I would like to add that to the channel. I don't just want to be a Warhammer channel forever. I do want to start to get into the historical side, because I do thoroughly enjoy it, but just not this one, I guess. Anyway, I thank you for watching. I hope you found this useful in some regard about whether you may go ahead and buy this game yourself. My Berserkers, I'd like to point out, got 300 odd kills. I do love Berserkers, I'm not going to lie. They're a selling point for the game for me. If the game was just all Berserkers, I'd love it. I'd be all over it. I'd play it 10 hours a day. But it's not. I thank you for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this. I'll see you in the future.